A warm welcome to everyone who's joining us. It is December 22nd, December 23rd for our friends down under. But this is Love from the Afterlife during the holidays. I'm Sandra Champlain. I'm here with Scott Milligan. Just a little bit about me, because I know we have some people that are with us for the very first time. I'm the host of We Don't Die Radio. I also am a host of a brand new show on Coast to Coast AM/iHeartRadio called Shades of the Afterlife. I wrote a book called We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. And I am super duper duper passionate about finding good evidence of the afterlife and sharing it with people. Underneath it all is to help ease the pain of grief, help people know that their loved ones are around, and to help people get back into life. The first 14 years of my life, I absolutely loved Christmas. I was the biggest kid on planet Earth. Unfortunately, my parents got divorced. My grandfather died. I had some pets depart as well. And it was a tough time. And so from the age of, say, 14, 15 till 5 years ago, so I'm 54 now, so you can say that's a long time, I had no Christmas spirit. In fact, I had Christmas anger. All it took was one Christmas carol, and I was upset. You know, I had Christmas tied in with all the negativity that's happened. On my search for the afterlife, I found something called Banyan Retreat and something called physical mediumship, which sounded so far out there, like there's no possibility this could be real. But for that one little chance that it was, I had to investigate it myself. So lo and behold, I took a many journey hour flight from Boston to the UK, and then a cab for an hour and a half, met up with the friends at Banyan Retreat and Scott Milligan. And Scott will tell you some stories of what happened, so I won't give that away. But all I can tell you is Christmas magic came back. I can't even believe it. So now I'm back even more so that kid at Christmas. And even though this Christmas is so different than past Christmases, the afterlife is real. Loved ones are around. Your loved ones who have passed into the unseen world sit by your side right now, close, tight. You'll get an opportunity to feel their love. And there is magic. So if we can, first, let me say grief, there's nothing harder than it or more painful. But if we can do a little something to uplift you, we're here to do so. So there's going to be 3 parts to this. First part will be a talk by Scott. Who knows where he'll go? He may not even know either, but he will share some really great things with us. The second part is we ask you to find a comfy place free from distractions, and you'll get an opportunity to close your eyes and get a little taste of blending with this unseen world. And then the third part is Scott will close his eyes. We'll listen to 3 beautiful Christmas songs, and we'll have an opportunity to witness trance mediumship. We'll invite his inspirers if they'd like to speak and deliver a holiday message. So not much for you guys to do. You don't need to ask questions. You don't need to press your raise hand button. All there is for you to do is sit back and relax. If you have registered for this event, you will get a replay when it's over, probably a few hours after. And if for some reason you don't see one in your email by tomorrow morning, you can just send me an email, sandrachamplain@gmail.com, and I'll make sure I get that right out to you. So I'm going to turn it over to my friend, Scott Milligan.
Thank you, Sandra, and thank you for helping to facilitate this event. And thank you to all of you who are joining me in this most hectic time of year. And this year brings its own new challenges, new experiences, so to speak, and a change of life. So all that pressure added onto your shoulders, my heart is there to say thank you for escaping the hustle and bustle and being with me for such a short period of time. And what I want to do tonight is kind of go back down memory lane. And those who know me know that I'm very much like the history of unfoldment of mediumship, going back from 1848 to the present day, knowing about the mediums that sat and demonstrated. And tonight, I'm not going to touch that. I'm going back into the experiences that I have physically seen, physically heard, and physically touched. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's important now that we kind of ignite your imagination so that you yourself find this thirst to go forward in your own development and your own investigation, and seeing what is beyond your reach with the mediumship. Go beyond that and see what this wonderful world has to offer. Now, just before we really dive into it, I want to just give you a sense of what I mean by physical seances. Because when you hear the word seance, you kind of interpretate someone sitting around a large table with a tea cloth on their head, with big earrings, and saying, is there anyone there? There is part true to that, but physical mediumship demonstrates seances, and seances means meeting. A seance, for me, and my interpretation of it, is that a medium can sit there and close their eyes and release a gas. And I'm not saying that kind of gas. I'm saying that as you sit there and your eyes close, something changes within you and a vapor leaves you. This vapor, once it touches the air, becomes solid. And people like you and I, who may be in the spirit world, can use this substance and step into it. And as they step into it, they become temporarily solid. And that is what I mean by physical mediumship. Physically, you are able to hear. Physically, you're able to see, if you're lucky to have the light on during a demonstration, or the many voices with the many different personalities, reminding each of us that there is no death. Many years ago, that's being a very young lad, I attended a demonstration which was in a very ordinary room with very ordinary people. And a man who had an extraordinary talent, but the most filthiest sense of humor, came into the room and was restrained to a chair. Can you imagine? And as he was restrained to a chair, he was able to close his eyes and move beyond his nerves. And then the miraculous happened. The so-called dead came alive. The so-called invisible people became visible to all of us who attended these demonstrations. And throughout the year and throughout the weeks that passed, we attended nearly every night another demonstration. But coming into November, December, we kind of changed the atmosphere, and we wanted to celebrate Christmas. And throughout history, physical mediums would always do at least one Christmas tree seance. And how I can paint this picture for you is, if you can imagine a room that is full of love. But people who are sitting there are not here to receive messages. They're here to hope that the person next to them receives a message. So if all of us were sitting and thinking of the person to our side, we've come together in harmony. If your imagination would allow, to imagine in the center of this room was a Christmas tree, not with lights, but decorated with all its finery. And underneath that tree was loads of presents, ranging from toy soldiers to bottles of alcohol, to hampers, sweets, you name it. As long as it's not going to upset the medium, we were allowed to bring it in. Prior to these demonstrations, the spirit people would come and we would say to them, what would you like for Christmas? And many of them just said, all I want is your love. Some of them would say, well, if you need to buy me something, if you want to buy me something, don't spend your money. Just bring me something from your home so that I can keep within my mind something that you have thought of. But me being me and others, we used to go and buy alcohol for the spirit elders. And the wonderful medium that was tied to a chair his name was Colin Fry. Some of you know him to be on TV, but I knew him to be the physical medium and the trance medium. And through his gift, I've seen the most extraordinary phenomena. But at Christmas time, we were asked to wear our best. And in those days, having a little bit longer hair than I have today, dyed trying to be red, but came out bright orange. A beautiful wide neck purple shirt with a crushed velvet suit. Can you imagine it? Crushed velvet suit, black. So I would turn up at the seance and people would turn and look at me, and I thought I was the best looking person in the room. And people were smiling, but inwardly they were laughing at me, but I didn't mind. We were told to dress in our best, and that was the best I could offer. We sat within the circle. Colin came in, looked at me and couldn't look in my eyes. He looked at the wall and just started laughing. Tied to the chair normally. And then we started to sing, to create a vibration. And we sung Christmas songs. And it was very quick, the phenomena. Objects like this trumpet started to lift in the air. You started to see as it grew, as it went up in the air. A little child materialized and went over to the Christmas tree and started to pull, and you started to hear the presence moving as this child was trying to find something. A lot of the children actually went for the alcohol, but before they got to the alcohol, this child turned to me and came up and started trying to nestle on me, climb up to me, and started stroking their hand on my jacket and said, with a killer blow, "My mummy used to make curtains out of this." And I thought, "You cheeky little devil, you." And she said, "Yes, they were made out of this fabric," which made me feel about that big. But the child slipped off my lap and went over and found a present. When they found the presents, they would sit there and they unwrap it gently or aggressively. And as they started to look at the gifts that we were bringing, they kept within their mind this toy, which then they created in the spirit world. So they took a copy with them. Many children used to throw the presents around. They're just like children, excited, and you would hear the excitement as they would tear at the paper and roll the paper up and throw it at you. Or get silly string, and you would sit there and the silly string will spray and you were covered from head to toe. And if you started to laugh or you showed your vulnerability, they would aim directly at you. As everyone in the room started to laugh, it gave more power, so the children got stronger. So they start decorating you and putting baubles on your ears or hang them off your glasses. So I look like Dame Edna or a chandelier when the light came on. They always picked on me because I was the youngest living within that room. And I didn't mind that. I thought being touched by the spirit world was a privilege because they trusted you. As I said to you, that we would take certain things in, and we wanted to thank the spirit people who work behind the scenes. So Dolly, who was the drag queen, we brought her a tiara and a fairy wand and high stiletto heels, so she can keep in her consciousness our tokens and our gifts. I got very peculiar looks when I was trying to buy stilettos, and I said to Dolly, "How big's your feet?" And he said, "How big's your mouth?" And I thought, "Oh, that's wrong." And because he said, "You never ask a lady that question." But he drew round his feet to show us the size. So I'd have to go into shops and say, "Would this shoe fit me? Would this shoe fit this person?" Again, got very peculiar look. So we took in the high heels. Magnus, I took in the bottle of Stone's ginger wine. Charlie Carter, the little child who kind of built the power and melted our nerves at the beginning. I took him a sheriff's hat and a parrot to show that he was in charge. He wasn't interested in that. He was looking for his gin instead. When we started the seances and the children came and they were looking, they would find the Stone's ginger wine, which was alcohol. You would hear the child open it and you would hear glug, 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 glug. And the more they were drinking, the more they were talking, and the more their mouths were slurring as the alcohol was taking hold. Magnus shouted from the corner, "Enough!" And then the bottle fell. Magnus explained to us whatever is ingested into the child goes straight back into the bloodstream of the medium, which was Colin. So many times during these seances, these children would drink, and then when Colin came out of his trance states, he could barely stand. And you say, "You're right, Colin." And he'll go, "Yep." And he was absolutely drunk. Not even a touch of alcohol touched his lips. He did not smell of alcohol, but because it went straight back into his bloodstream. The same with the sugar sweets. Have you given a child a sugar sweet, especially at Christmas time? Literally, you would have a tin of roses or a tin of sour sweets, and the children would come. They wouldn't take one, they would take handfuls. They would share it with the sitters, or they would stuff it in their mouth and go, you know, "How are you? Who are you?" And you, because their mouths were full of sweets, and you would hear them slurping and chopping away. But then the sugar would kick in, and they would run around the room with speed, reminding all of us that these are children. But when Colin would come out of his trance state, he would then be looking at us very peculiar. And he said, "You're right." And he said, "I can't rest because I feel I need to go for a run," because the sugar went straight into his bloodstream. It didn't have to go through the digestive system. It was absorbed into his blood. We did this, and Colin sacrificed these times when he was slightly unwell, because it was Christmas. It was the spirit of giving and making sure that that child or whoever materialized was having the time of their life. Many children that materialized in the early part of the seances. So when we started, Charlie would come, and then the children would then come along. These children were all children who may have gone to the spirit world in peculiar ways, and dare I say, murder, being suicide, being accident, some ways that could leave a very awful feeling when you heard their stories. And for that brief moment, we removed that fear or those thoughts that moved within their minds. No one in that room would ever hurt that child. That child would be received in love and understanding. The children used to ask us, "Can we have permanent markers?" And we said, "Of course, what would you like it for?" And they said, "To draw for you." And you're like, "Okay." Not questioning, without hesitating, off I went, got these permanent markers. And I got the big thick ones, you know, the real big jokers, put them in the room. I thought, I'll take the lids off to make it more easy for the child. Now, a lot of times in the seances, we weren't allowed to move. The only movement we had was to bring our hands up and gently stroke and put our hands back down. The children would come and start to climb up me and then said, "Hold still." And you could feel these marks going on my skin. And I thought, well, I don't know what this is, but it's fun anyway. And I come out looking like Coco the Clown. I would have drawn on eyebrows, big lips, my teeth would be blackened, whatever they wanted to do, which was fun and fine until the next day when you couldn't wash it off. Your skin was turning green and you had to go into retail. And I looked like something that someone threw up. I had these massive eyebrows, big as Christmas. But again, it was the spirit of it. And people said, what happened? And you was like, "You wouldn't believe me." And I just said, my niece or nephew or someone drew on me when I was asleep. But I think, how would those children feel taking that gentle marker and becoming a painter who was painting a masterpiece in their own way? Many times that they would come up and they would offer us sweets, and we would take the sweet, or they'll pop it in our mouths, and we would say, "Would you like one?" And that's all what they would do. And they would say, "Have a sweet." And you're like, "Oh, thank you. Would you like one?" "Oh, yes." And the more they offered, the more sweets they could have. Until this young lad, Norman, materialized one time and said, "I want something." So he said, "What would you like?" He said, I would like roller skates. So I said, okay, we'll find them for you. We found these roller skates and they were roller blades. And during the seance, he popped these roller boots on. It was a wooden floor and you heard him skating around the room at speed. And then all of a sudden you heard bang, and he would fall over. And you would hear from the floor, I'm okay. And then he'll get back up and he'll zoom around again. Or he'll try with the skipping rope, skating and skipping at the same time, which normally ended in disaster with a badoof. But the spirit children bounce, not like our children today. They may scrape their knee, but in the spirit world, they bounce. And Norman said, what else would he like? And he used to love cheese. So we would bring him in cheese and he would sit there on the floor and you would hear him slurping on the cheese. But one time there was an orange there and he said, what's that? And we said, well, we don't know. What is it? And he said, it's round. Is it a cheese? And we said, probably. And he went in and he bit it like an apple. But with the orange, he didn't take the peel off of it. And he heard him go, "Ugh!" And he just threw it to one side and you heard him go, just like any child would do. But as we heard this, we started to laugh. And the more we laughed, the more stronger he became. And as we were laughing with him, not at him, with him, he was a very important member of creating harmony within the room. The seances were predominantly to help you and I stand again. People who have been touched by death or may have had a significant trauma happen within our lives. Being in the darkness of a room, surrounded by people who just want to serve, allowing the spirit people walk out in all their finery. Dolly, the drag queen, would come out in different dresses. Some days it was sequin, some days it was a gypsy top. So the gypsy top where the shoulders were exposed. And we say to him, Dolly, what have you got on today? Something gorgeous, dear, you would hear him. And he would walk around the room and say, oh, look at you, dear. And he would normally come and play with my hair or, again, make comments about what I was wearing. Oh, my friend Fat Bunty used to wear that. And we'd say, who's Fat Bunty? Oh, the biggest drag queen in the world. 24 stone. See her in kitten heels, prancing up and down the wobble cobs, she would say. She snapped her ankle one time. Bless her, trying to do ballet on those heels. But when she sang Ave Maria, made the angels weep. As Dolly was talking and saying, as I walked down the street, standing next to Fat Bunty, we looked like a hoop and a stick. I was thin, with legs up to the heavens, and she was short and fat, like a boiled pot. Dolly would be talking, and Fat Bunty would materialize and come out thumping with her heels, and she would come out and she said, who am I going to sit on? And guess who was the one what was asked to be the chair? Me. Fat Bunty would sit down and you would feel this rotund figure with more rolls than a bakery sitting on you, screaming and roaring with laughter as Dolly went round and greeted his friends. One time when we were sitting, especially at Christmas time, someone said, Dolly, you're a low entity. And Dolly went, low entity am I? Low entity am I? And walked back into the cabinet where Colin was sitting and slowly emerged holding a child, almost a newborn baby. Walked over to the person that said he was a low entity and said, I believe this one belongs to you. 4 minutes that passed, this person sat holding a child, their child, but only touched the earth for a brief moment and then went back home. Dolly would walk back to the cabinet muttering, low entity, am I, low entity? And which made us laugh and try to lift the atmosphere, because when you are in a seance room hearing these voices and seeing someone who becomes vulnerable, teary, because someone has come back, and feeling that pain of grief that they must have suffered, then Dolly would walk back out of the cabinet and said, I've got to take it back now. Now give it a kiss. And you would hear them kiss the child. And Dolly, in his gentle way, lifted up the child and walked back into the cabinet and said, "Don't worry, your mother's looking after him." And then off they went. Around this time of year, we would sit, and a friend of mine, and we're going to call her B, if that's okay. B had a son that was born premature. B had an awful life in the sense that she was heavily pregnant. And, well, I say heavily pregnant, she was big for her frame. So they always thought that she was ready to give birth. And on New Year's Eve, her and her husband went out with her best friend. She didn't drink, but her husband did. And as they returned, the taxi parked on the other side of the road. She got out, and as she walked across, her husband and the best mate started to walk across the road, and the car went round the corner and hit them both. The best friend was killed outright. Her husband broke his back and became a paraplegic, able to move his hands, but were unable to move anything else. The stress of this caused B to go into labour, and the little child was born, but sadly didn't stay here for long. The husband couldn't take it and decided to end his life. When he was able to be alone, to show some strength, he went over to the spirit world to join his son. How can someone rise from that? But B did, because on this night, at this time of year, as she would sit there, her husband would walk out the cabinet with her boy. And every year that passed, the boy got older. And the last sitting that we were able to be all together, her little boy materialized and said, "Mummy, mummy, mummy, look what I did at school today," which made us realize there's school in the spirit world. So if you think you're going over there and you're not going to be, going to school or anything like that, you are going to go to school. You're going to do everything that a child should do and will do, but you will have the enthusiasm and you'll never get exhausted. They handed B a piece of paper, and B sat on the floor, and for the duration of the sitting, she played with her boy. Her husband returned at the end of the demonstration and said, "Right, give your mother a kiss now. I love you, B." And then off he went. When the light came on, this lady was transformed, because as the light came on, the thing that her child handed to her, what he made at school, was a portrait, a simple piece of paper with a drawing of mummy, daddy, the little boy, the little pets, which was extraordinary because it was drawn in crayon on paper. The crayon and paper were not in the room before we started. That was there at the end, which showed that the spirit world was able to do something. She still has it in a frame. And she said, "This is what my son has done for me." She never cries now. She always smiles at this time of year, saying, "I'm lucky to have a son that will never get hurt, and I will see him one day." From those moments, we would have water pistols, and the spirit children used to take it quite funnily and say, "Mr. Scott, open your mouth." So I'll do that, and it'll get me in the forehead, across the chest. One little child said, "Look at this, squirt, squirt, squirt," and shot me in each of my nipples and in my belly button. So when the light came on and my t-shirt was soaked, I had what they called boobaloopas. It showed that they shot me with accuracy. Never take into a seance room, and I learnt this very, very quickly, never take into a seance room a nerve gun. You know those ones that fire those little rubber pellets, what stick to you? Never take those. Because when you get shot, you scream. It doesn't hurt, but it just makes you jump. So I'm like, "Ah!" And because I screamed, because people laughed, it made them strong and made them more accurate with their shooting. But again, I didn't mind that, because it was about being with the children and being in this healing balm. Many times that we would sit there and the children would say, how strong is your chair? And we say, what? And you feel your chair being shaken. And again, you weren't allowed to move too much. So you would start doing this. And again, you start to laugh, or you start to say, oh, stop that, stop that, stop that. Everyone else around you starts laughing, makes them strong, and they're able to lift your chair up. As it goes further and further up, higher and higher, the laughter which was here at ear level is now sinking down to your hips, because you're going at least 1.5 meters off the ground, not allowed to move. And as you're going higher up, you're hitting the ceiling, and the ceiling's in this position, so your head starts to bend, your body starts to bend, and you feel yourself sliding off the chair, and you're thinking you're going to go face down, but the spirit world would keep you pinned there for a moment and then bring you back down. Or lift your chair up with you in there, start to rock you side to side. They would experiment with me because, again, this is what the spirit world used to say, I used to bounce. You know, if they picked up someone who was in their 80s and they dropped them maybe a new hip for Christmas, for me, I used to just go bang, and I go, thank you very much. And then they'll give me alcohol, because they would hand out the little cups of alcohol so we can have a sip and celebrate the spirit of Christmas. Many times we would have wonderful singers come, and one of them was Frances Gump, Julie Garland, and she would sing White Christmas. So as she would sing and serenade us, a lot of us used to say, oh, I've just been touched, I've just been touched. And our loved ones would materialize partially and come over and hold our hands or whisper to us, I still love you, I'm still there. But not only would hear the voice singing White Christmas, we have a voice here, and someone across the room would have another voice, and it'd be 3 or 4 voices talking all at once. What was even more fun is when we had the voice talking and the dog running out barking. We had one dog one time would come out and go up to its owner and start sniffing and jumping up and licking the owner, and you heard the owner go, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And then you heard the dog humping the leg. You know, like a normal dog would do, would find romance in the leg. And you would hear, oh, and you think that's, you know, again, you're saying, I think it's humping my leg. And you say that, and again, the sitters around you would start to laugh. The spirit world will get stronger, and then they will carry on doing what they needed to do. Or you would have the parrot flying round, landing, going, pretty boy, pretty boy. And you would hear this lady of considerable age talk back to the parrot. She wasn't interested in her husband who was trying to talk to her. She was more interested in her pet parrot that came back to remind us that animals still live on. So many times in Christmas, we would get ourselves into so much trouble in the sense of we would take in all these presents. Colin would sit there and work, and then at the end of it, the whole room was annihilated. Ribbons everywhere, sometimes ribbons in your hair, ripped up paper, presents organized in rows, toys made up. And you say, who's going to clear this mess up? And we were all on the floor like anything. Go, we will. And a lot of times we would take in marshmallows, and the spirit children would bite into the marshmallows and leave their little teeth. Or we take Play-Doh or plasticine, and they would stick their hands into it and leave us perfect little handprints that showed us which was separate to the medium. When I was demonstrating not too long ago, for Christmas, people would bring in their presents. And what we would do is that we would donate the presents afterwards to a children's hospice called the Mauser House. And the reason we would do this is that the spirit world has said they will come and play with the toys. And as they play, objects hold memory. So as the child was playing with this toy, this love, this power would go into the toy, which then we would donate to the hospice. And hopefully that the child who is finding it hard to live here could feel this love and power, which helps them to move forward in whatever way, may it stay here for longer or their transition. Because everything held healing. a lot of times that people would wrap their presents in lovely wrapping paper which had glitter on it. Now, if anyone knows about ectoplasm, as it exudes out the medium's body and as it crawls along the floor, it can pick up debris along the way. So as the spirit children were ripping the paper, the glitter was going on the ectoplasm. As it was dissolving and going back into me, I was seeing glitter not only in my mouth, but in my underwear as well. And I said to everyone, please don't bring them in, because it looked like I've been bejazzled in some ways, had crystals all around me. And especially when I went to the toilet, I didn't realize glitter could go through your body like that. Now, some of you may be recoiling and saying, this isn't very spiritual, but this is the truth of the matter. And it educated each of us to be careful what we brought into the seance room, to take our shoes off, to keep the floor clean. We would sprinkle, sometimes we would put talcum powder on the floor, and we'd say to the spirit children, step into it. Can you leave a footprint for us? And normally they could. So we would see these little feet that had run round the room that showed us that they were real. Or taking paper, and they would draw little messages, or write little messages and draw little faces. Many times that we were allowed to take in Christmas cards. If you had someone who you loved who's now gone into the spirit world, you would write them a Christmas card. You wouldn't put their name on the front. You may put a symbol or something which showed that the medium wouldn't know. We would normally put objects out in the room before the medium had entered. And a lot of times people would have their own cards given back to them. And when they opened up the card, there would be the signature of the loved one, which just responded back or saying, I love you too. What was more extraordinary, another lady who wrote a letter to her father materialized and went, coffee, coffee, coffee. His favorite thing was coffee. So she said, you've got the message, because she had written the letter by smearing coffee on the paper. So the evidence was coffee, coffee, coffee. But what was even more extraordinary, when she opened up the card, her father's handwriting was inside. The spirit world told us that the cards that we have, which we had sealed with a loving kiss, a copy had gone to each of our loved ones. And they asked me to tell people, not today or tomorrow, but at this moment. So from back then to now, they said, every year, write us a Christmas card. Put out a Christmas ornament. And as you lift your hand and place it there, we will help you. As you write it, we will lean over your shoulder and whisper back to you. So don't ever think, ladies and gentlemen, that your loved ones are gone. They're not. They may be invisible. This hand may not touch them, but they can touch you. They can see you. In your dreams, they may talk to you. In your life, they may show you signs. Or if you're lucky to sit in a seance room and the spirit world has seen the greatest need was you, that they are able to remind you that love can never die. For myself, I have been privileged and lucky to receive personal communication. And that's why I stand now on the rock of truth, that no one can sway me from it. Through the kindness of Dolly, through the generosity of Magnus, and through the unique ability of Colin, it has moved me from believing to knowing. Knowing there is a world that awaits us, but knowing that our loved ones live there. And at this time of year, you may be feeling the pinch of knowing that your Christmas may not be the same at the moment. But on Christmas morning, as hard as it may be, you should sit there or stand and say to the unseen world, come and join me. Let's share our love. Having the loved ones draw close, having your friends saying, oh, look, he still knows I'm there. Sometimes you need someone like me to remind you this, but I hope that you yourself don't need me, and you can sit quietly and allow the spirit world to talk to you, and not have the jumbled message from a medium that may have misunderstood what the spirit world has tried to say, that you could feel the love that I felt so many times within the seance room. The spirit children used to find it funny when they run through the wall, and you would run through that wall and you could hear them running across the ceiling, and then they run through the wall behind you and push you forward. Or back then I had longer hair, but I had curtains. So you know how the hair would grow and you have the centre parting, and I would have the curtains there, and the children would come up and go, "Nay!" like they were riding a horse, tugging at my hair, or going spam, like that, like a child would do. We have a wonderful communicator called May, and May is a beautiful lady, absolutely stunning in every sense of the word, and she works with children. And at Christmas, she's very active. She's the ones that organise the children to come through in the seances. She will stand for a child that may be being abused. She said, "I will stand in front of them and I will do my best." She said, "If I had muscles, I would knock the person into the next world." But she looks after children in the spirit world, and she wants to marry my little friend Daniel. Daniel's not having any of it. But Daniel has painted a picture of this lady being very, very large. He said that if May tried to materialize from the cabinet, it's like baking a loaf of bread, trying to get it out of the tin. She would take the shape of the cabinet. But because children like cuddly women, cuddly people, so children hang off of her. And at Christmas in the spirit world, she does the nativity. And she is supposed to be the angel that's coming down from the heavens in the story. But Daniel cuts the rope, so she comes down like a meteorite, hitting the ground, and the children roar in the spirit world. Again, again, again. And off she gets lifted up again. And bang, she goes back down. Her halo bent. She paints this picture for all of us. But she says, "I will do this for the children." What are you prepared to do to help us to bring these children back? Like I said many times, that we would sit there and the spirit world will wrap us up in paper, draw on us. I was demonstrating one time in Mansfield. Some of you are from Mansfield were in this one, when someone brought in these colouring pens and the spirit children decided to paint on my face. But no one told me because I was asleep. So when I woke up, no one could look at me in the eyes, and everyone said, "Are you all right?" And I said, yeah, I'm all right, but they weren't looking at me. We were going out for dinner afterwards, so I got changed normal, and I knew something wasn't right until I passed as I was getting towards going out and seeing that I'd been painted. I think I was supposed to be a kitten or a bear, but I just came out looking like a clown. So I went to the bathroom, got the baby wipes out, trying to clean my face, and it's stained. And I had to sit there in the middle of the restaurant looking like a clown. You may say to me, spirit children wouldn't do that. If the children are like it here, they're like it there. Mediumship has proven time and time again that we do not lose our personality. We only grow in love. Could you imagine if I had gone to the spirit world and I was communicating to you and I was being saintly? You would say, "That's not Scott. Scott has a sense of humor. He has a bit of grit to his personality." And I would have to prove my personality for you to accept who I am. So in the darkness of a seance room, or occasionally in light, these children would run and run amok. But what was really powerful for me, which truly made me know that mediumship should not be played with, was this young lad that materialized, gave his name, gave his details, and said, "Mum, I know what you're planning to do, don't do it. Mum, I know what you're planning to do, don't do it." This woman fell to pieces within this room. He materialized and walked across the room, calling out to his mum. His dad was there as well. They were able to hug, able to kiss, sharing memories for almost 15 minutes, 15 precious minutes. We sat there, sending whatever we could, because this woman is broken. This family is destroyed. He said about his bike, he said about Australia, he said about these good, gorgeous details that convinced the mother, without a shadow of a doubt, that he lived on. As he went back into the cabinet, and there's more to this story, but I don't want to put too much heaviness on it. As he went back, he said, "Mum, I know what you're planning to do. I love you forever. Bye-bye." The mother told us afterwards that she had traveled the length and breadth of the United Kingdom looking for hope of her son's existence. Every medium didn't seem to quench that thirst. So they said that if he didn't come through tonight, they were going to continue their journey from Haywards Heath to Brighton, 20 minutes down the road, and walk hand in hand into the sea so they can join their son. "Mum, I know what you're planning to do, don't do it." She came in broken. She left skipping with a new zest of life. And this family now sits to help people who are joined the club they didn't want to join. And their son works from the spirit world, helping to heal the hearts of mothers and fathers. For me, this is the meaning of mediumship. Yes, we help children. Yes, we enjoy the phenomena of the spirit world. But the purpose of mediumship is to help a mother, a father, a son, a daughter, a brother, a sister, a nan, a granddad, an aunt, an uncle, a best mate, or a cousin stand again when death has knocked them to their knees. And Christmas is a time where we are painfully reminded, and that's why we work as often as we can to help. So I think the greatest gift we can give humanity is the opportunity for the spirit world to work through you. So you become the healers between the two worlds, healing the need of the bereaved and healing the need of the spirit. So why not start today making a promise to the invisible world and say, "I will do my best to sit and get self out the way so that I can be used." Because if you have become the healer and someone else and so on and so forth, this world will be a better place. Death may not have this bitter taste, this painful, wrenching stab when it's your first night sleeping at home, when someone else isn't sleeping physically there. So with my stories, I cannot leave you on this sadness. I can only leave you with happiness. So many times that we would sit and certain individuals would come through and we had loved one after loved one. And if there's 30 of us, we couldn't have 30 loved ones come through. So 6 people would get the messages and then they would bring someone that was known to all of us. And on this night, we had Louis Armstrong and Mae West materialized together, come saunting out the cabinet and walking around, shaking the hands of everyone that was present. But as they were shaking their hands, you had someone shout, "Oh my goodness, I'm being touched." And their son and their daughter were there. Louis would sing "What a Wonderful World," and you hear Mae going, "Sing it, Louis," in her beautiful voice. Can you see how I'm good at voices? These beautiful voices. and you would hear these beautiful songs as the seance continued. So I've been decorated, I've been dressed up, covered in silly string, blamed for taking too much alcohol in and getting the kids drunk, getting the medium drunk, but I've left memories in the minds of those who we've helped, but they have left with me something that has changed my life forever, and for that I am eternally grateful. There's many more stories I can share with you, but I haven't got enough time in this moment, and I wanted to keep it solely about Christmas. Yes, if we were doing it all throughout the year, I could tell you many, many more, but there were only probably 15 to 20 Christmas ones. But I could tell you about what really stuck with me, because it became so normal that it became part of my life. And I hope that it will become part of yours. But may I leave you with these thoughts. Believe not a word I say until you experience it yourself. Believe not a word I say until you experience it yourself. Then you know, without a shadow of a doubt, that this is the reality. And to make you laugh, we had opportunities to bring certain objects into the room. And someone brought, I don't know if you know about it, a super soaker, which is like a giant water gun. It's like a gallon. It's like a pressure washer. And someone was excited and said, I've got this for the children. And my eyes were like, I don't think so. And we put it to a vote. And we said to the whole group, do you want this in the room? And everyone said yes. Not a flicker, not a hesitation. They all went, yeah, do it. So on your own head be it. This poor lady, it looked like she'd been waterboarded. The spirit world took aim and emptied the tank completely. This lady roared with laughter. This lady said, I've truly been blessed. There's me trying to get my brolly out, trying to protect myself as much as possible, but you can't move. But what was more fun about that night is, again, we had loved one after loved one after loved one. Child after child after child. So in that short 2 hours, many lives were changed. So at this point, as I'm boring you to tears, I would like us to have an opportunity to sit. This is to sit in the power for you to escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life and just sit in the silence. Now, some of you may say, well, why do we need to do that? When we sit in the power, it's like fertilizer for our soul. It's strength to our mediumship, but it also can pave the way for you to become certainly aware of someone who may love you from the spirit world. There's always people who love you, but there may be someone who you're after, saying, I miss you terribly. Can you feel my love? So we're going to adapt this sit-in, hopefully. Again, I'm waiting for my caller to arrive so that we can talk you into this moment of peace. So would you come on a journey with me? In order for you to come on the journey, I want you just to sit comfortably. If you need to unfasten your belts or take off your shoes, use this opportunity to get comfortable. Place your hands in your lap and close your eyes and allow my voice to touch where it needs to move. Allow the music to lead you in rest. So let's go on a journey, you and I, and see where it leads. So close your eyes and let's begin. Allow the music. If you need to adjust the volume, adjust the volume. close your eyes and listen. What can you hear at this moment? As the rolling breath, as you breathe in and out, the breath of life. As the shoulders lift and fall. What can you hear? Do you hear the sounds of items in your room? That will slowly fade into the background. As you begin to empty your pockets with the rocks and stones of life, allow your body this time to relax, for the weight of the world to fall away. And only a sense of peace begins to hold your heart. And your being. As these words meet you, touching you only for a moment, we lay the foundations of the intent to serve. By offering these words to the invisible world, as we unite as one. To the Great Spirit, who have revealed the benign gifts of life, we have come at this most perfect time in this world. We sit to invite you to join us as we rise to the highest, as we find the strength to climb the steps to the altar of peace. Take what is needed. Our hearts may be sore and miss so many. But as we lose ourselves in this experience, we invite all to join. Our love is offered as yours, as your thoughts are accepted as ours. as we lay these words down, as gentle stones upon a path, that lead only to peace. And to the ultimate love. As the cares of the day fall like the gentle autumn leaves, you know you are loved. Loved by your family, loved by your friends, as you begin to settle like the sun that sets to settle, and the curtain of night is drawn. Showing to us all the stars that have always been. The stars that illuminate the path. Where you and I can meet. And as the steps may be taken, you may think of someone who you love, who is thinking of you now, in the land of peace, of the inner world. Accept their love. And allow your mind to drift. And bend like the wild flowers with the breath of the wind. Moving into the silence in the language of love, in the fragrance of peace. Just rest here for a moment as thoughts may come and go. as these words come to meet you in the inner world of where you are, what can you feel as you become free from distractions? As an ocean of love lies within, where those who you miss have added to. As we extend our thoughts to thank all who have played a part, and ask for a blessing to rain upon those who hear these words. May peace and love, health and happiness bless your being. And for those who you miss, may they be the first to remind you that you are loved. For every step you take, they walk by your side. The stories that they have shared are now your own to share with others. Within your hands now are the gifts of the Spirit, and may they serve you well. As time now pass, and my words find strength within your mind, what can you hear as you slowly start to make your way back into bodily consciousness, back into the hands of time? What do you feel as you start to move your fingers? What has changed from then to now? Have you been reminded that death is not the end? It is the lie. That we live on. Take a deeper breath in as you strengthen your thoughts, as the beat of your heart reminds you. Like the waves of the ocean, take another breath in. And when you are ready, and when you desire, open your eyes. or remain in a peaceful state as the hand of love will never let you go. And wherever you can, no matter how hard it may be, try and smile, as you never know who smiles back. Normally, when we sit for power, if you fall asleep, then you have done your duty. If you sit for power and you get communication, if it satisfies your heart, then stay there. But what's beyond that? Always think about that, my little lovers, when you sit. Lose self in the experience and allow whoever is around you to give you the love that you deserve. So it's strange tonight, isn't it? Where you're moving from story time to being passive. Now it's my turn to be vulnerable. Now it's my turn to represent the spirit world in an altered state and trance. For those who may not know what trance is, it's a very beautiful experience. It happens to me, especially when I'm sitting in a physical demonstration like a seance. I have to walk through the doorway of entrancement to go into the deeper state so that I can serve the spirit world. Tonight, we are going as far as I can, and hopefully that my friend who is inspiring me to talk to you at times is able to speak and maybe able to address or move thoughts, wherever it may be. Hopefully it'll work. If it doesn't, you're going to be stuck with me. And that can be a curse. So I'm going to now work. So in order for me to work, I need to just relax. And while I'm relaxing, 3 songs will be played to keep you occupied. But if you want to close your eyes with me and just get lost in the 3 songs and remember the spirit of Christmas, and hopefully we're able to work. So I'm going to just hand you to Sandra. Why I'm going to make myself look more attractive by dulling down the lights, because I feel like I'm getting sunburn with the light. So I'm going to just dull it down, and Sandra's just going to say hello.
I'll say hello.
Do something.
I think maybe you can get a little taste of the magic that I got, because I got to be there with the spirit children unwrapping the presents as the Christmas, we were singing Christmas songs, and I got to witness a little girl's fingers on a like a glow in the dark plaque moving, and it just melted my heart. So we'll say some nice things later if you're interested in more of this, because there's some great books and some just great things. It's very, very rare, and we're so grateful that we can share this with you now. So Scott has really dimmed the light, so you can't really see him well, but the most important thing is to listen. And Scott, I'm going to take it as a cue that I can play the music. Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, if you just want to sit back, close your eyes, you're not going to see much because the lights are dim, but just listen, feel the presence of your loved ones, because they're here. They are most certainly here.
Is that better for you? I'll tell you what, let's just bite the bullet.
No, that's fine.
There we go. We'll do it in this. This will be
okay.
better.
Is that okay? All righty. You're the boss.
Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth. A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. Fall on your knees, oh, hear the angel voices, oh, night divine, oh, night when Christ was born, oh, night divine, oh, night divine. Truly he taught us to love one another. His law is love, and his gospel is peace. Chains shall he break, for the slave is our brother, and in his name all oppression shall cease. Sweet hymns of joy in grateful chorus raise we, let all within us praise his holy name. Fall on your knees, oh, hear the angel voices, oh, night divine, oh, night when Christ was born, oh, night divine, oh, night divine.
As you listen to the melody preparing our arrival to you, it reminds you of the past, but touches you in the present moment, as those who have stood firmly by your side. Their voice now may be a distant memory, but they still stand here this day to remind you that the next step in life is upon the path of eternity. As you are reminded at this special time in your world, as the festival of light is upon you, where the echoement is only peace, not division, by misunderstanding, not creating war with one another through the fragrance of fear. as you fight the invisible force that seems to have caged mankind, bind together in peace and in love, in the fellowship of the Spirit. As this world in which you love is struggling to evolve, through situation is smothered in fear, that gives rise to the opportunity for you not to be distracted by quarrels, but to stand shoulder by shoulder with your fellow man and say, we will come together and we will stand to face the invisible force of this virus. So the hands that you have will hold humanity, so that the birth of the new year gives birth and rise to the opportunity of change. The past has been written, the ink is dry, but within your hands hold the instruments to write a better future for each other. But it must start with self first. You are given the opportunity to change your ways, as the routine of life has now changed. Some of you feel lost, others feel found. Found time now to be generous with your love. Be generous in your understanding of life, to inspire the little minds of others that will grow into the strong minds of people who will carve the future of humanity. You are born at this time as you are born to resilience. But the greatest gift that you can give humanity is your love. Being patient to others who may not have discovered the world you have entered and the world that they will finally find. If we could give you the world, we would. There is nothing we could deny you, but we are constrained by the will of now, that you yourselves will stand firmly upon your shores and help to speak for us. Those who are animated to be the workers of the light, to spread light and happiness to the world. As these words come to soften your hearts at this moment, as you celebrate the holiday that is known as Christmas, we celebrate the festival of light, where many prayers of happiness bound themselves to us as we walk amongst men. We are reminded of tales of old, but the shepherd must smell of its flock and walk amongst, so that one day they can lead and inspire. Each of you at this time that may feel a little complacent, separated, imprisoned, that within you hold the keys to unlock the love of our world. This time of change that each of you face is a time of purification, so that mankind now will stand strong and now walk the path of peace. The one here has reminded you of stories of old. But what stories will you write? What experience will you share to help those who have lost their way? As I have said on numerous occasions, as I have inspired the one we love to utter these words to humanity, that the greatest lie that has been written, that has been shared, has been said, is death. The body is borrowed, but the soul belongs to eternity. As at this time, some amongst you have moved to become the inner child once again, to be lost in the moment as you bring decoration to your residence, to wrap your tokens of love in pretty paper, to write the cards of good wishes in the most finest of ways. But I remind you, why does one wait for a single day in many days that make a year? Can you not add this to every day as the sun rises and sets, to whisper to each other how much each of you mean? As the trinkets that you hold strongly today will remain with the earth tomorrow, but carried with you is the memory and love that one has shared. If one looks at their life today, they may be rich in trinkets, lavish gold and finery, and snigger at the poor person that walks with no shoes upon their feet. But when they are to lay down for the final time to rise within our world, they cannot take their finery with them. But what you do take is the love, the memory, and experience. So they may be wealthy today, but poor tomorrow. And the one who has walked each step, felt each grain of sand below their feet, for every drop of rain that has fallen upon them. They have seen life. They have heard conversations and seen the generosity of others that now stand strong within our world, as they have lived amongst the people. At the transformation of this year, as this year moves and evolves into a greater year, what will you do differently? What will you change about your person that may bring you even more happiness and sensitivity to the influence of our world as we move through the vast vibrations to hold you this day? We are prepared always to serve you. And all I ask of you is for you to be kind to yourself and kind to each other, to allow the soul to unfold for the perfect moment in your world. As many of you whisper the words of heaven, heaven is in your world now. Be a part of it. Live as long as you can with happiness within your being. It is the gift that you give this world as you leave your footprints firmly, as a gentle reminder of who you were and who you are this day. As my footprints are now a distant memory, but as I retrace my steps, new prints are made. For not the life I have lived, not me becoming the inspirer of others, but being the humble messenger of a collective mind that only wants the best for you. I have come to serve God however you see God to be. And inside each of you is the spark of God, and therefore I am bound to serve you. But I do not flicker. I do not waver in this task, as I have come only to love and help wherever I can to bring light and love to your world. Enjoy your festival of light, but as you wake Christmas morn, keep within your mind that someone may be alone, someone may be forgotten to this world. For you to keep a spark of thought will change their lives, so they will not be hidden. Even know that the jailer has imposed a prison upon you to keep you safe. It is because of the nostalgia of this time. Your mind does not live in the moment, it lives in the past. But bring the memories into the here and now, and you will know with confidence that you are not alone. These are the words that I will share with you at this time, and on behalf of all those who stand with me, animate me to come to you as I represent the Austin Wish Circle. I give you the love of all those who cannot speak, but are here now and forevermore. Good day to you, my friends.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Ta-ra!
Ta-ra, Daniel. Okay, as we're waiting for Scott to become fully back, just a few great things. First of all, one of the books I fell totally in love with, besides hearing Scott's stories, is The Mediumship of Alec Harris. So if you find yourself needing to read something this holiday season, you can download it in Kindle form on Amazon. It's just amazing. Written by his wife about how he became a physical medium, loaded with stories of just the incredible things that have happened. Also, the home base we have is we don't die radio.com. I have interviewed Scott, I don't know, maybe 7 times, loaded with stories. If you're interested in hearing more about him and physical mediumship. Also, on that website, there's a calendar. There's lots of upcoming things, including we offer a free Sunday gathering, which is our non-denominational Sunday service. And it's just filled with joy and great things, and even a mediumship demonstration at the end of each one. It's just a nice thing to come to remind yourself that this, what we see here, isn't it. There's a much bigger picture, and you can watch the replays of all of them. And speaking of replays, there is also at that website a link that says store, and we have saved all of the past trance demonstrations that Scott has done. We've been doing these on Fridays for about an hour and a half, and there's a whole bunch of them. So if you want to watch the replays, you can use coupon code FREE, FREE, and let yourself be inspired by the words from our friend or friends in the spirit world. They're all done as questions and answers. So many topics we've discussed. And also my audio book that is there, We Don't Die. If you want to enter coupon code FREE, you can do that as well. Chapter 10 is on grief, how to survive grief. And many of us are grieving this time of year, and it's tough. The body does some biological things that are out of our control, and it'll give you some understanding of what grief is, some of the things you can do to lessen the pain of grief. Because like I said, some of it is out of your control. No matter what we believe, the body is still going to grieve. So I'm going to turn it over to my friend Scott for whatever closing words, whatever else you want to share.
Thank you, Sandra, and thank you all of you for being generous with your time. And for me to go down memory lane with Colin, because Colin was an incredible medium, incredible worker for the spirit world, but he was also an incredible man, a funny man, smoked like a trooper, sometimes drank like a fish, but he always had a generous heart. And no matter what was going on in life, you could always call him. Some people have their own views on him, but he really laid the idea with me that we can go further, along with the love of John Austin. Now, I'm going to tell you a very quick experience, which you may not believe me, and that's absolutely fine. But it happened. And how it happened was, if you can imagine that we are in a small room with one single door in and the same door walking out. The windows are boarded up so no one from the outside can see what we were doing. Nothing could be handed through the window. It was completely sealed and what we call a sterile room. The medium, Colin, was tied to a chair. Magnus, the main voice, said and gave us instructions for us to sing, and you will hear the chair drop. And when the chair dropped, call him back. The chair drops. Colin, 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 or Cole, as some of us used to call him, Cole. No response. John, what do you want us to do? Keep calling him. Cole, Colin, come on, Colin. Still no response. Put on the red light slowly. Red light started to emerge, and there was an empty chair. No medium, You looked to the ceiling to see if he was pinned to the ceiling, which was quite normal. Or look behind the sofa. No medium. The key was taken from the pocket, unlocked the door, opened the door, and underneath the window on the other side of the room, in a different room, there was Colin, still in trance but tied up like a turkey. All the shoelaces were taken off our shoes, bound his hands behind his back. The ties from the wardrobe were used to tie him together. 15 minutes passed as you're trying to undo these intricate knots. Colin started to surface and out came the scissors to cut him free. He went through the wall, and that in itself made us question everything. And we are reminded that there are no answers, there are only questions that will lead to a greater question. So once again, I must reaffirm what my friend is saying to me. Believe not a word we say until you experience it yourself. I said to John Austin, my circle leader, the man that started my development and gave me the foundations, I said to John, we write a story, write a book of everything you've experienced. And then he firmly said, no. I said, but John, you've had all these experiences. You have seen the best mediums of the world. You have seen the most incredible phenomena. You have listened to the most educated minds from the spirit world. This will be lost when you die. He said, they are my experiences. Now go away and find your own. Don't learn from me. Go out there and learn for yourself. So we've come full circle, and I may have wasted 2 of your hours, or I may have planted a seed, but I hope that you yourself will go and investigate phenomena, but also remind yourself of the happiness of Christmas. As hard as it may be, keep within your mind those who you love. I can feel them around. I can feel my friends around me. Very much so. So if I can do it, you can do it. It may just take a little bit of time, but this is 24 years now of my life. It's coming up to 25 in May of next year. It's the only thing I stuck at with all my life. And it's the only thing that brought me the most happiness. But Corona, I've called it all the names under the sun. Covert, Cody, Vita, all these different names because I couldn't remember the name, has put a stop to what I love. And that's meeting you. I'm missing the touch. But from this situation, it's allowed me to use this thing, what Sandra seems to know all about. So it's given me the opportunity to talk, but it's also given you the opportunity to make this wonderful connection with each other. So you're not alone. So if you are feeling a little bit sore, remember to reach out to the wonderful organizations out there like Helping Parents Hill, the Samaritans, Families Fighting for Justice, all these different organizations which are there to help you through this difficult time. So thank you for listening. Thank you for your generosity with your donations, which goes towards the upkeep of We Don't Die, making sure that Sandra will have something on her table this year and improving technology if it's needed. So thank you. And I hope you have a lovely and a safe Christmas and Happy New Year, because this is the last of my work before Christmas. So thank you for making it an enjoyable one.
Oh, thank you very much, Scott. And before we do our closing, I just want to say a couple things. You know, many of us have Christmas trees up, and there is a pine tree that grows in different parts of the world. And the acorn or the pine cones need to be subjected to extreme heat for them to be able to crack open and start regrowth. And I often compare that to grief. Sometimes our toughest times is that thing that will set us on this spiritual journey. And it may be a couple of years down the road when you realize that some of the worst things that have happened to you have led you on this journey of amazement. And just recently, those two planets came very close together, Saturn and Jupiter, and up in the sky, anyone who saw it could see this bright light. And then that's amazing. That hasn't shown that bright in something like 800 years. But I want you to think of this. We are in our Milky Way galaxy, you know, the solar system within it. There are billions and billions and billions of stars like our sun with planets around them. We can't even possibly comprehend the vastness of it. So don't buy into this life is all there is, that being human is so real and there can't be anything else. For God's sakes, we communicate, these things can communicate all the information in the world, and we don't know how it works. So you can have that magic of Christmas. You can have that trust that your loved ones really, really are here. There's going to be a day that we're all going to close our eyes this final time here on planet Earth. And whether you believe it or not, you will open them up again, surrounded by your loved ones, even your pets. The invisible now will become visible to you. But your life is for a reason. Enrich your soul. Things can be tough, but we can overcome. Dreams can be made possible. And the biggest gift that you can give is being yourself. Do a little something for someone else. Service, sharing is all the keys to the kingdom. So with that, I want to thank every single one of you out there, wherever you are in the world, for joining us. Thank you for trusting us with your time. You're now part of our family. We have a Facebook group called We Don't Die Listeners. If you want to join in that and share where you are and get some love and support or whatever throughout the holidays, we're here for you. A big thank you to Scott for your almost 25 years of dedication to life, both us living people and our friends in the unseen world. We love you, and we're looking forward to the day that the earth changes a little so you can travel and we can sit in with you in some of these seances. And then also a big thank you to our spirit friends and our loved ones and our family who are doing so much to let us all know that they're still here. They haven't left, and show us that our life here is just a thread in the fabric of our soul. There's such a bigger picture. So thank you to our spirit friends. So with that, I'm Sandra Champlain. Again, home base is WeDon'tDieRadio.com. I want to thank you for being here and have a very, very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you, everyone.